Hey everyone, and welcome back to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and as always, I'm your host and your guide through some of the most thought-provoking academic research out there. Today, we're diving into a paper authored by Doug Rice. Now remember, as always, I'm presenting this paper in a completely neutral way. This isn't my endorsement or my critique. My job here is to break down what the author is saying, explore their arguments, and help you make sense of it all. After all, academic research is about putting ideas on the table so we can examine them together. Truth isn't handed down from above. It's something we wrestle with, right? All right, so this paper titled They Act As If lays out a pretty intense critique of social attitudes in the United States, especially around race, privilege, and history. Doug Rice is the author, and the heart of his investigation is this: what are the consequences of denying or ignoring historical injustices, particularly as they relate to Black Americans and Indigenous people? Why do so many people, Rice specifically calls out white Americans, maintain an attitude of indifference or denial about the origins and realities of systemic inequality? And what does it mean for our society, our future, when this acting as if continues? So let's pause for a moment. Why is this question important? Well, if you look around, debates about racial justice, reparations, calls for equity, they're everywhere. Whether you're sitting with coworkers or scrolling through social media, these conversations can get, well, pretty heated. What Rice is probing at is something fundamental. Is there a widespread tendency to respond to the hard truths of history with kind of a shrug, or worse, just acting as if nothing's wrong? Rice draws out this concept from, interestingly, marketing and sales. In that world, act as if means to move forward confidently, even in the face of objections. Rice turns this around and says, basically, white American society often acts as if, acting as if the past doesn't matter, as if the injustices that shape the country aren't still echoing in the present. He describes this attitude as almost indifferent, a sort of willful blindness to how privilege was built and who paid the price. So, let's talk about method. This is an essay. Rice isn't conducting surveys or running statistics. He's building an argument, weaving together history, psychology, and personal observation. He invokes images of land theft, slavery, reservations, generational trauma, and the wealth built on all of this. Throughout, he keeps returning to they act as if. Every line kind of hammering home how repeated denial props up an unjust status quo. And look, Rice is not holding back. His language is strong, sometimes even shocking, right? He calls out what he sees as hypocrisy, entitlement, and self delusion. He argues that the refusal to reckon with past crimes like slavery and genocide against indigenous peoples isn't just an oversight, it's, in his view, a kind of active, ongoing harm. At the end, he warns of a reckoning, even invoking divine judgment. So there's this sense of, whoa, consequences are coming, and you can't just wish them away by pretending history didn't happen. Okay, quick digression here. This idea of pretending everything's fine reminds me of uh, that classic comic strip where the dog's sitting in the burning house saying, "This is fine."
You know that one? It pops up everywhere on the internet, right? I mean, obviously it's not the same, but it's wild how often humans default to denial as a coping mechanism, whether the issue is global warming or something way closer to home. But okay,
Back on track. So, what does this argument mean for you? If you're sitting there, listening, maybe feeling uncomfortable, or maybe nodding along, Rice's core point is an invitation to interrogate how history shaped your life and the structures around you. Maybe you're someone who's benefited from generational wealth, or maybe you've felt the sharp end of exclusion. Either way, Rice is asking us to ask ourselves, do we act as if? And what would it mean to stop, to face history honestly, and to question who pays, who benefits, and what justice could really look like? Of course, let me remind you, I'm just presenting Doug Rice's work here. Academia is about exploring ideas, shining a light on tough questions, and sometimes, yeah, feeling challenged. Nothing I've said ranks as an endorsement or a denouncement. I just hope you leave with some new perspectives to chew on. So thanks for joining me on In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price. And I'll see you next time as we unpack more research, ask more questions, and keep the conversation moving. Remember, truth isn't a destination, it's a journey. Take care.